Hello everyone, welcome to APTI Plus Academy for Civil Services. So in this video we are going to discuss the weekly current affairs for your first week of October, that is from 1st to 7th. So let's begin with the first topic now. So the first topic is Darjeeling's landslide crisis. So as we all know that Darjeeling, which is often called the Queen of the Hills, it has again been devastated by torrential rains and massive landslides in the early October. Yes, so a little bit historical background first. So these are not new to the area. These landslides are not new to Darjeeling. So they have been occurring since the 19th centuries. So the record shows that in 1899, 1934, 1950 these kind of landslides have occurred, right? So the 1968 in particular was very devastating in nature, and the state of your environmental report of 1991, it has noted that 9 cloudburst events have took place in the Teesta Valley region between 1902 and 1978. Okay, so this region, it can be said that it is disaster prone, right? But the concern now is that the frequency, intensity as well as consequences of these events, they have drastically increased. So that is the important thing that you should know. Now earlier it was a naturally vulnerable area, right? So now the disasters which are occurring, they are more human induced in nature. So what are the factors here? So the number one is the population and the urban pressure. So the rapid population growth is occurring due to the migration from plains and neighboring countries as well, right? So second is the climate change impact. Because of climate change, the rainfall patterns, they have undergone a clear transformation. तो जो मानसून शावर्स पहले इवनली डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड हुआ करते थे, दे हैव नाउ टर्न्ड इनटू शॉर्ट इंटेंस क्लाउड बर्स्ट विच आर आल्सो नोन एज मूसलाधारा वर्षा. So the local name is Musladhara Varsha, and this has led to rapid surface runoff, soil erosion as well as slope instability. So the second factor is the climate change impact. Third is the hydrological disruptions. So the rivers and the jhords, which is the local name for streams, they have changed their natural courses and they have now intruded into the human settlements. Right. So the flooding of riverbeds and blocking of the natural drainage channels by the unplanned in these settlements, they have intensified the landslides as well as the flood risk. So this is the third factor, that is the hydrological disruptions. The fourth one is the unsustainable development. अब चाहे वो लार्ज स्केल हाइड्रो इलेक्ट्रिक प्रोजेक्ट्स हो, एक्सपेंशन ऑफ रोड एंड रेलवे नेटवर्क हो, अनरेगुलेटेड टूरिज्म इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर हो, सो ऑल दीज हैव exerted pressure on this fragile Himalayan ecosystem. And fifth and important factor is institutional as well as governance failures. ठीक है, so the disaster management as well as the has been weak, as well as there is absence of proactive institutional mechanisms. ठीक है, so also the warning signs have been ignored, right? So ISRO in its landslide atlas of India of 2023, it had ranked Darjeeling 35th among the 147 most landslide prone districts of India. So this is an important parameter, that Darjeeling was ranked 35th. Okay, even the local NGOs like the Save the Hills, etc., they have been raising alarms regarding the disaster proneness of this area through campaigns as well as social media, right? So the government, despite these factors, these warnings, they have failed to act with the urgency. Okay, even the glacial, if you remember, in October 2023, 2 years back, there was a glacial lake outburst flood in Sikkim. Okay, so it after that also the administration has not taken much of the steps, right? So this is important. So what are the economic environmental costs here? So tea industry is getting affected, okay, so because the productivity decreases and the soil becomes unstable. Tourism gets affected also. The medicinal as well as the agricultural crops, they are getting affected because of these rainfalls as well as the landslides. Now this also has national security implications because of the strategic location. So it lies close to the Siliguri corridor, which is also known as the Chicken Neck corridor. So this particular passage, it connects India to the northeast, so obviously that will get affected. So it also has cross border implications because it shares ecology with Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh. So this will have a transboundary ripple effect. Third, Act East policy, right? Since it is a route to India's Act East economic and strategic engagement, so here, if any ecological instability occurs, it undermines the larger policy framework. ठीक है. So what should be the way forward here? Now let's discuss the way forward. So we need to follow a multi-dimensional approach. जो पहली चीज़ है, इंपॉर्टेंट चीज़ है, दैट वी नीड टू इस्टेब्लिश अ नेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन फॉर हिमालयन क्लाइमेट एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट. ठीक है. तो यहाँ पर क्या कर सकते हैं? सो देर इज़ अ फॉरेस्ट रेंजर्स कॉलेज इन क्यूरसियोंग. ठीक है. इट कैन बी कन्वर्टेड इनटू अ सेंटर फॉर क्लाइमेट चेंज स्टडीज एंड डिजास्टर मैनेजमेंट, स्पेशली फॉर द ईस्टर्न हिमालयाज. ठीक है. सेकेंड, इंटीग्रेटेड हिल डेवलपमेंट पॉलिसी. So we need to respect, there is a need to respect the carrying capacity of the this Himalayan ecosystem. So this Himalayan ecosystem is fragile in nature, we need to respect its carrying capacity, and there is a need for strict regulation. So ये सब आपके policy के components होंगे. Strict regulation of the construction projects, hydropower projects, EIAs, right? Third, strengthen your local governance. ठीक है. सो म्यूनिसिपल गवर्नेंस, इट नीड्स टू बी रिवाइड. यू नीड टू empower your local bodies with proper funds and expertise, right? So you need to include your community, local communities into disaster preparedness. Fourth, sustainable infrastructure and tourism. So we need to promote a low impact and eco-friendly tourism, so that is important. And lastly, national security framework. So we need to understand, so this is a important topic, the environment security nexus. ठीक है. कि जो हमारा इकोलॉजिकल स्टेबिलिटी है, हम उसको इनकॉर्पोरेट कर रहे हैं इंडिया के स्ट्रैटेजिक और डिफेंस प्लानिंग में. So this is important. This is an important point, catchy point that you can drop in your mains answers as well. Right. So this is in brief regarding the Darjeeling landslide crisis. Now let's move to the next topic. So the next topic is your NCRB Crime in India Report 2023. So the National Crime Records Bureau, it has released its Crime in India Report of 2023. Okay. So it is the most authoritative compilation of all the criminal offenses in India. So this data, it is useful for policy making, law enforcement, as well as for your criminal justice reforms. So a little bit about NCRB first. So it was established in the year 1986 and it is under your Ministry of Home Affairs. So basically, what are its functions? So it compiles and coordinates the national crime data. It also maintains the fingerprint records of your Indian as well as the foreign criminals, and it also assists in locating interstate criminals. Okay. So this is the broader functions. Now, how this data is collected? So we should know. So that data is collected from all your states and union territories. So from the police stations to the district headquarters to the state, and finally from the state to the NCRB. ठीक है. तो जो NCRB का एक प्रॉपर सॉफ्टवेयर एप्लीकेशन है, वहाँ पर डाटा को एंटर किया जाता है एंड देन वैलिडेशन इज डन एट ईच लेवल बिफोर द फाइनल कंपाइलेशन इज डन. ठीक है. सो here the important thing that you should know, that here the population figure that is being used is the 2011 census data. ठीक है. तो 2011 सेंसस का डाटा है एंड एट प्रेजेंट वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट 2023, राइट. सो ऑब्वियसली द डाटा इज आउटडेटेड एंड इट अफेक्ट्स द एक्यूरेसी ऑफ दिस डाटा, right? So let's discuss quickly what are the findings. So first of all, regarding the overall crime, so the overall crime rate has increased if we talk on year to year basis, and it has increased from 422 to 448 per lakh population, right? So this increase can be mainly attributed to two factors. One, motor vehicle act violations, and second, crimes affecting the human body. So दोनों ही बढ़े, right? And the murder cases, they have decreased by 2.8% vis-a-vis 2022. Right. Now if I talk about cyber crimes, so the cyber crimes have increased by 31%, and the primary objective motive, we can say, here is the financial frauds, so that is almost 69%. And the southern states of Kerala, Telangana, and the northern UP, these are the most affected states, right? And here important thing to note is that these cyber crimes, they have been continuously increasing for the past 5-6 years. तो जब से हमारा डिजिटल की तरफ एरा की तरफ हुआ है, we are approaching towards this era, so this trend is showing a upward axis. So if I talk about now the crimes against the women, so a slight increase of 0.7%, and the top affected states here are Uttar Pradesh, Maharashtra, Rajasthan, West Bengal, and Madhya Pradesh. And here if we talk about what kind of crimes, so cruelty by household violence, the domestic violence, that is almost 30%, then kidnapping and abduction. So these are the major crimes. If I talk about crimes against children, so they have also increased. So here kidnapping as well as the POXO Act offenses, they are the major chunk. If I talk about SC ST, so here also the crimes they have been increased. And in case of STs, Manipur is the most affected, as we all know that how ethnic violence was there in Manipur. And in case of crimes against the SCs, Uttar Pradesh is the most affected state. So this was the findings of this report. Now if I talk about what are the caveats associated with this report, there are some, first of all, principal offense rule. What does this mean? That the only the most serious offense is recorded in multi offense cases. ठीक है, तो क्या मतलब हुआ, जैसे मर्डर विद रेप है, ठीक है, मर्डर विद रेप विल ओनली बी काउंटेड एज मर्डर, सो दिस लीड्स टू अंडर काउंटिंग ऑफ द केसेस. क्यों? आपने रेप तो काउंट ही नहीं किया. ठीक है. सेकंड, रिपोर्टिंग विजिज इंसिडेंट. अब एनसीआरबी क्या करता है? इट रिकॉर्ड्स द रजिस्टर्ड क्राइम्स, नोट द एक्चुअल क्राइम्स. ठीक है. तो there is a difference between registered crimes and actual crimes, so that can lead to the data can be manipulated in that case. Third, data quality issues. So we need to depend upon the police data entry as well as the validation. So अगर local level पे inefficiency है, so that can lead to distortion of the data, right? One I have already told you regarding the population 2011 census, so that also affects the crime rate calculations. So but still this data is important for policy formulation, analyzing the trends, to ensure transparency. Also this data is being used by other global crime and databases as well as the UN. So yes, this is important. ठीक है. तो यू कैन हैव वे फॉरवर्ड ऑल्सो दैट वी नीड टू मॉडर्नाइज द एनसीआरबी डाटाबेस विद रियल टाइम डिजिटल इंटरैक्शन. सो वी कैन ऑल्सो लिंक योर एनपीआर. ठीक है. सो द लिंकेज ऑफ एनपीआर विद द एनसीआरबी डाटाबेस. ऑल्सो the cyber policing capacity of your local personnel, police personnel, that needs to be enhanced. So such kind of way forward you can mention. So next topic, the Sir Creek dispute. So this is very important. This was in the news recently. So first of all, let's see what this Sir Creek is. So basically it is a 96 kilometer long tidal estuary along the India Pakistan border. ठीक है, जो हमारा western border है. So it lies between the Run of the Kutch, as you can see on your screens, the Run of the Kutch, which is in Gujarat, and it is the eastern part of the creek, and towards the west we have seen that is Pakistan. राइट. सो हम इसको ओरिजिनली बान गंगा बोलते थे. तो इट इज़ अ मार्शी एरिया, इट इज़ अ फ्लड प्रोन एरिया, एंड देर आर फ्रीक्वेंट monsoon inundations here. So the terrain, as I have told you, it is mud flat, salt marshes are there, and a number of venomous snakes like Russell viper, scorpions, etc. are found. ठीक है. So now coming back, so what is the importance of this particular region? So पाकिस्तान के साथ बॉर्डर पे ऑब्वियसली इट इज़ क्रिटिकल. ठीक है, स्ट्रेटेजिक लोकेशन है. सो if I talk from the point of view of Pakistan, so it is important for the Karachi area. So Karachi, which is the Pakistan's largest city, economic hub and a port, so it is critical for the protection of that. So पाकिस्तान ने क्या किया? इट हैज़ बिल्ट बंकर्स, रडार्स, फॉरवर्ड बेसिस इन द एरिया, एंड इंडिया भी अपनी मेंटेन करता है मिलिट्री प्रेजेंस वहाँ पर कि अगर कोई इनकर्शन हो तो उसको प्रिवेंट किया जा सके. सो दिस पर्टिकुलर creek, as we all know, if you remember the 2008 the Mumbai terrorist attack, तो क्या हुआ था कि the terrorist during that time they arrived by boat. So this particular creek, it can be a launch pad for cross border terrorism. तो उस चीज़ को प्रिवेंट करने के लिए इट हैज़ सिग्निफिकेंस, राइट. ऑल्सो इफ़ आई टॉक नाउ अबाउट द ट्रेड, द मैरीटाइम ट्रेड, सो जहाँ पर जो भी इस सर क्रीक को कंट्रोल करेगा, ऑब्वियसली इट विल गेट इन्फ्लुएंस द मैरीटाइम ट्रेड विच इज़ अकरिंग अक्रॉस द अरेबियन सी, राइट. So this is the strategic importance. Now if I talk about the economic importance, so energy resources, so this particular region, it holds untapped oil and gas reserves which are obviously crucial for India's energy security. Fisheries, it is an important fishing ground, and also dispute over this particular land, the Sar Creek, it affects our EEZ, एक्सक्लूसिव इकोनॉमिक जोन, जो कि 200 नॉटिकल माइल्स तक होता है. सो इट दैट गेट्स अफेक्टेड. तो ऑब्वियसली इनडायरेक्टली हमारी मैरीटाइम रिसोर्सेज और ट्रेडिंग राइट्स दे विल गेट अफेक्टेड. ठीक है. अब डिस्प्यूट क्या है? अब डिस्प्यूट ये है, इंडिया ये बोलता है दैट द बाउंड्री शुड फॉलो द थालवग प्रिंसिपल, दैट इज द मिडल ऑफ द नेविगेबल लैंड. ठीक है. तो द क्रीक इज नेविगेबल, सो दैट थालवेग प्रिंसिपल इट अप्लाइज. पाकिस्तान क्या क्लेम करता है? दैट वी क्लेम द एंटायर क्रीक इज नॉन नेविगेबल एंड दिस प्रिंसिपल डज नॉट अप्लाई. तो ये पाकिस्तान की पोजीशन है. ठीक है। तो रूलर, जो अगर हम बैकग्राउंड की बात करें, सो द रूलर्स ऑफ द कच्छ एंड सिंध, दे यूज टू हैव डिस्प्यूट ओवर स्मॉल टेरिटोरियल क्लेम्स, छोटा मोटा डिस्प्यूट हुआ करता था। सो आफ्टर दिस 1965 वॉर, इंडो पाकिस्तान वॉर, तो उसके बाद पाकिस्तान स्टार्टेड क्लेमिंग हाफ ऑफ द रन ऑफ द कच्छ, ठीक है। एंड इन 1968 अ ट्रिब्यूनल रिजोल्व मोस्ट ऑफ द रन ऑफ द कच्छ, इंडिया गोट 90% बट एक्सक्लूडेड सर क्रीक, ठीक है। तो वो डिस्प्यूट रिजोल्व नहीं हो पाया। सो देयर हैव बीन अटेम्प्ट्स एट रेजोल्यूशन ऑफ दिस। सो स्टार्टिंग विद 1989 इस्लामाबाद में टॉक्स हुए थे, उसके बाद 19 में रावलपिंडी में, 91 में दिल्ली में। सो द टॉक्स हैव बीन अकरिंग, द बायलैटरल टॉक्स। सर क्रीक वर्किंग ग्रुप वाज इस्टेब्लिश्ड इन 1998, ठीक है। पाकिस्तान ने इंटरनेशनल कम्युनिटी को इन्वॉल्व करने की कोशिश की थी, तो वो इंडिया ने साफ मना कर दिया था अकॉर्डिंग टू द शिमला अकॉर्ड, राइट। सो दीज थिंग्स, दिस डिस्प्यूट हैज़ बीन इन द न्यूज़, ठीक है। जब से मतलब पाकिस्तान हमसे अलग हुआ है तब से ये चल रहा है, राइट। सो अभी करंट स्टेटस क्या है, दैट देर इज़ मिलिट्री विजिलेंस फ्रॉम बोथ द कंट्रीज। इंडिया अपना क्लेम करता है, पाकिस्तान अपना क्लेम करता है। एंड what is the impact, that the fishermen's livelihood is getting impacted, maritime resources का control अभी तक वो issue है, and finally the regional security, right. Next, the Trump's Gaza peace plan, okay. So this particular plan, as you all know, it is an ongoing development. So it has been announced by US President Donald Trump after the Israeli PM's visit to Washington, okay. So as we all know that this particular war, the Gaza war, it has led to almost 66,000 plus deaths. A number of people have been captured as hostages, ठीक है। तो हमास, विच इज़ द अपोजिशन पार्टी, उन्होंने अभी तक इस प्रपोजल को एक्सेप्ट नहीं किया है। सो व्हाट आर द की प्रोविजंस है? सो नंबर वन, हमास डिसआर्मामेंट एंड एमनिस्टी। सो हमास इट विल सरेंडर एंड डिसआर्म, ठीक है। तो जो जो मेंबर्स एग्री करेंगे इस प्लान को, दे विल रिसीव एमनेस्टी, सो दे कैन ऑल्सो लीव टू अदर कंट्रीज लाइक इजिप्ट, जॉर्डन, कतर, ईरान एक्सेट्रा। तो ये प्लान सबसे बड़ा चैलेंज है इस प्लान का, क्योंकि 20 ईयर्स से हमास उस पर्टिकुलर रीजन में अपना रूल कर रहा है। सेकंड इज द ISF, विच इज़ द इंटरनेशनल स्टेबलाइजेशन फोर्स। सो इट इज़ अ टेम्परेरी फोर्स विच विल बी बैक्ड बाय US एज वेल एज द अरब पार्टनर्स ऑफ US. So they will train the Palestinian police, they will halt if there are any inflow of arms, and they will also facilitate the movement of goods etc, ठीक है। So basically it will act as a security buffer, right. Third, governance and transitional authority. So the Gaza, it will be governed by a technocratic Palestinian committee. So दिस विल बी ओवरसाउट, एक आपका इंटरनेशनल बोर्ड ऑफ पीस बनेगा, विच विल बी लेड बाय मिस्टर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप एंड टोनी ब्लेयर, द फॉर्मर ब्रिटिश प्राइम मिनिस्टर, एंड it will ensure that there is a neutral administration during the reconstruction period. So this is the third, which is your technocratic governance. Fourth, humanitarian aid and reconstruction. तो चाहे वाटर हो, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, सीवेज, हेल्थ केयर एक्सेट्रा, सो देर विल बी लार्ज स्केल एड बीइंग प्रोवाइडेड फॉर दीज थिंग्स, एंड दिस एड डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन इट विल बी ओवरसीन बाय योर यूनाइटेड नेशंस, रेड क्रेसेंट, एज वेल एज अदर इंटरनेशनल एजेंसीज also. The next important point is that hostage exchange will occur. So after 72 hours of the acceptance, ठीक है, all the hostages will be returned, ठीक है। आपका Israel will release 250 लाइफ टर्म प्रिजनर्स एज वेल एज द डिटेन पीपल फ्रॉम गाजा, ठीक है। तो इस तरीके के होस्टेज एक्सचेंज विल टेक प्लेस, एंड फाइनली देर इज a regional guarantee, global guarantee. What does this mean? This means this plan, it is supported by regional your countries, you can say, like Qatar, Jordan, UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, etc. And so this way China is also involved, Russia is also involved, so there is a credibility to this peace plan. अब अगर हम बात करें द इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग, व्हाट आर द इम्प्लीकेशंस फॉर इंडिया? सो नंबर वन, द फॉर द इंडियन डायोस्पोरा, तो हमारे वहाँ पर मिडल ईस्ट में ऑलमोस्ट 9 मिलियन इंडियंस आर देयर, ठीक है। सो देयर सेफ्टी, देयर that is ensured if such a peace plan is put into place. Second, energy and energy security and trade, ठीक है। तो हमारा 80% क्रूड कहाँ से आता है? मिडल ईस्ट से आता है। सो दैट ऑयल प्राइस वॉलेटिलिटी दैट कैन डिक्रीज, ठीक है। जो इन्वेस्टमेंट्स हैं दे विल गेट इंक्रीज, और जो हमारा इंडिया मिडल ईस्ट यूरोप वाला कॉरिडोर है, ठीक है, सो दैट कैन बी अ सक्सेस इन द फ्यूचर। थर्ड, स्ट्रेटेजिक कंसर्न्स। अभी तक तो जो मैंने बोला है दैट इज़ बेनिफिशियल फॉर इंडिया, बट इन्वॉल्वमेंट ऑफ पाकिस्तान, ठीक है, यू एज यू कैन सी कि US is getting tilted towards Pakistan if you see the quotes of the president of US. तो ऐसे में जो इंडिया की रीजनल डिप्लोमेसी है दैट कैन गेट इम्पैक्टेड, right? So obviously that the plan is very ambitious, but it is uncertain because it depends upon Hamas कि वो accept करता है या नहीं करता है. So but it is obviously an opportunity for regional stability, but the geopolitical sensitivities they will remain. So this is what you should know. Yes. So next topic, RBI Monetary Policy 2025. So recently on the 1st of October, so this meeting took place, and the repo rate, it has remained unchanged. So 5.5% with the neutral stance. So the policy stance is neutral in nature. Why? Because RBI has already cut the repo rate by 100 points in 2025 and inflation is also low, ठीक है. So 2.6% का टारगेट है, वे बिलो द बैंड जो आपका है 4% एवरेज वाला. So enough policy space is there. So 5.5% neutral stance has been maintained, right? So now if we talk about other aspects, what are the other aspects? So what does this meeting say? That other measures and regulatory changes. So number one, capital market lending. So the banks can now finance corporate acquisitions. Okay, so this is one. Second, concentration risk framework. So the decade old limit on large exposures. So earlier the limit was 10,000 crores. So that has been withdrawn, right? Third, infrastructure financing. Fourth, urban cooperating banks. So the RBI is going to issue new licensing now. So discussion paper also has been published on that. And fifth is your cross border loans. So the banks can now lend to in Indian rupees to the neighboring countries like Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, etc., right? So if I talk about the credit growth, so there has been an increase. So the bank loans have seen a 10% year on year credit growth. Okay, so these are some of the important things that you should know regarding the current policy meet, right? So this is also a developing topic. So whenever the monetary policy and this meeting take place, MPC meeting takes place, so just update your figures. Next, the Maoist movement is on decline, right? So recently the Union Home Minister, he made a remark that in this year itself, 2025 itself, almost 270 militants, they have been killed in operations. More than 600 have been arrested. Many have surrendered on their own unilaterally. So now the Maoist, even their leadership, it is divided into two parts. One, those who want to continue the struggle, armed struggle, versus cessation. Means some of them now want to give up arms and they want to fight for their rights politically. Okay, so they both the kind of leadership are present. Okay, so what are the reasons for decline? Now let's talk about the reasons for decline. So number one, the security operations. So there has been a continuous operation, this pressure from your central armed forces. ठीक है, चाहे आपका सेंट्रल फोर्सेस हो, चाहे वो आपकी स्टेट पुलिस हो. सो इन स्टेट्स देयर आर एलीट एंटी माओइस्ट स्टेट पुलिस यूनिट्स. सो बोथ ऑफ देम हैव ensured that there is continued pressure. ठीक है, so a number of key leaders, the Maoist leaders, they have been killed. So now these people, the Maoists, they have been confined to particular areas like Bastar, then Chhattisgarh, Telangana border, etc. तो बहुत ही आपका कह सकते हैं particular locations पर they are now present. So number one is the security operation. Second, recruitment challenges. Now let's talk about recruitment challenges. So these people, they are finding difficulty in recruiting new cadre. ठीक है, चाहे वो tribal youth ही क्यों ना हो. Why? Because of steps like government welfare schemes, education, access to mobile phones, access to internet. So these people now, these youth, now they prefer modern life as compared to the jungle guerrilla warfare. तो वो वाली चीज़ ना वो भी आपको यूथ को दूर लेके जा रही है. थर्ड, एजिंग लीडरशिप. सो मैनी ऑफ द टॉप लीडर्स, दे आर आइदर they have been killed or they are too old or they are ill. So because of that, there is no proper leadership there. ठीक है. Now another important factor that you should know is the peace offers. So historically these peace offers, the peace talks, they have failed. ठीक है, अगर हम बात करें आंध्र प्रदेश 2004 की, सो द टॉक्स दे फेल्ड, ठीक है। तो the officials what they suspect is that these people, okay, what they can do after the talks, they can regroup and again they can re-emerge, okay. So the government, they have been very cautious in their approach with respect to these peace offers. So this you should know. Historically, if I give you a historical background of this, so the origin of this movement can be traced to the Naxalbari uprising of 1967 in West Bengal, which was an armed peasant revolt, okay, which was led by one, there was an individual by the name of Charu Majumdar. So his ideology, so the people, they were inspired by his ideology. So CPI-ML, it was formed in 1969, which was the Communist Party of India, Marxist Lenin, and it advocated a revolutionary war against the Indian state. Okay, so this was the origin. Then expansion took place. Movement spread to Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, Bihar, Bengal, etc. Okay. So the students were joining. So this was the phase 1970s when the expansion took place. In the 1980s onward, consolidation took place. Okay, so CPI ML People's War founded, 2000 People's Liberation Guerrilla Army founded, 2004 CPI Maoist was founded. तो ये सब developments होती गई, ठीक है. Then the decline, then started the declining period, right? So the question in your mains examination can come on, what are the factors which are responsible for the decline of the Maoist movement. तो इस तरीके के आपको देन आपको गवर्नमेंट का, चाहे वो सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हो चाहे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, उसको पिक्चर में लेके आना पड़ेगा. यू विल हैव टू नेम द इनिशिएटिव्स, देन ऑल्सो यू हैव टू ब्रिंग द रोल ऑफ योर लोकल populace as well, right? Finally, in the way forward, you can mention what more steps can be undertaken ताकि पूरी अच्छे से इरेडिकेट हो जाए इशू. India's SMR revolution. So what are SMRs? So SMRs are nothing but small modular reactors. So these nuclear reactors, they have a generating capacity of 30 MWE to 300 MWE per unit. So the आपके conventional जो reactors होते हैं उनसे almost one third होता है, ठीक है. What are the advantages? What is the advantage of such reactors? So they are low carbon, they provide low carbon electricity, and they can meet the energy intensive needs of the industrial sector. चाहे आपका स्टील हो, एल्यूमिनियम हो, सीमेंट हो, तो वहाँ पर दे कैन प्रोवाइड मच नीडेड एनर्जी. एंड दे ऑल्सो ऑफर राउंड द क्लॉक पावर. तो जो आपका रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी का जो चैलेंज रहता है, ठीक है, कि दैट इज इंटरमिटेंट इन नेचर, सो दैट कैन बी ओवरकम. So the private sector, it has shown keen interest. So Reliance Industries, Tata Power, Adani Power, so these people have shown interest, right? So what is the structure here? So PPP model का structure रहेगा, where the NPCIL, which is your state owned, it will retain the operational control as well as the asset ownership, and the private entities, they will fund the project entirely. चाहे वो कोई भी capital cost हो, वो private entities लेंगे, and the private firms, they will receive the net electricity output for captive use, right? So these SMRs, they are operational in Russia, they are operational in China also, ठीक है. तो even your tech giants like Google, Microsoft, they are exploring nuclear energy. Why? Because given the artificial intelligence, अब artificial intelligence कितना ज़्यादा ज़ोरों से चल रहा है, तो obviously it requires huge power. जो डाटा सेंटर्स हैं आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस के लिए, उसको पावर चाहिए, सो दैट कैन बी प्रोवाइडेड विद न्यूक्लियर एनर्जी, ठीक है. सो दिस यू शुड नो दैट यस द पोटेंशियल इज देयर. सो इंडिया की क्या SMR स्ट्रेटेजी है? So there are number of SMRs being developed. For example, the Bharat Small Modular Reactor, Bharat Small Reactor, SMR 55. तो इस तरीके से there are a number of planned units there, right? And what is the policy and legislative framework? So अभी यहाँ पर गवर्नमेंट कोशिश कर रही है कि रेगुलेशंस को ईज किया जा सके ताकि प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा हो, right? India is also collaborating with countries like US and Russia for better technology, right? So this is important. Challenges. So number one, commercial risk, because they are still not proven commercially, ठीक है. Initial capital cost is too large. And third, अब अगर हम टेक्नोलॉजी की बात करें, तो जो इंडिया की प्रेशराइज्ड हैवी वाटर रिएक्टर टेक्नोलॉजी है, सो दैट इज लेस अलाइंड विद दिस ग्लोबल PWR टेक्नोलॉजी. So that is one hurdle that India can face, and because of that, focus on more R&D is required, ठीक है. Then amendments to Atomic Act, Energy Act, that will be required, so that these investor concerns, they can be rectified. Yes. RBI's capital market boost. So basically, what the RBI has done is that they have withdrawn the ceiling on lending against the listed debt securities. So the individual loan limit against the share that has been raised from rupees 20 lakh to 1 crore, as well as the IPO financing limit for retail investors that has been increased from rupees 10 lakh to 25 lakh. Okay, why these kind of steps have been undertaken? Because there is a need to strengthen domestic participation as well as to widen the retail as well as institutional access. Okay, so these are the important steps that have been undertaken. सो दीज आर जस्ट फैक्चुअल डिटेल्स, तो ये सब फैक्चुअल डिटेल्स हैं. यहाँ पर आपको प्रीलिम्स में क्वेश्चन आ सकता है कि आरबीआई ने जो जैसे ये फिगर्स हैं, सो दीज फिगर्स यू शुड नो. सो नाउ द क्वेश्चन अराइजेज दैट why now because at present, if you see the circumstances, in the global circumstances, so there are global headwinds going on. US trade tariff tensions are there, and H1B visa curves are going on, then your West Asia, Europe, so the crisis is going on there. These are the global factors. If I talk about the domestic factors, so the FPIs, they have withdrawn $21 billion over the last year. ठीक है, तो ऐसे में हमारा रुपये के ऊपर प्रेशर बढ़ा है, एंड द पब्लिक सेंटिमेंट इट हैज़ डैम्पन्ड. So because of this, the retail and the domestic institution, they are carrying the burden of maintaining the your trading volume. जो आपके शेयर मार्केटिंग में ट्रेडिंग है हो रही है, तो वो सारा आपके रियल और रिटेल और डोमेस्टिक इंस्टीट्यूशंस को उठाना पड़ रहा है. सो टू ease that and to increase the market participation and to offset the liquidity on the shortfalls, RBI ने ये step उठाया. ठीक है, so just go through the content once, you will be able to understand. So nothing much more to discuss here. Next, EU's drawn wall. ठीक है, so this has been this particular idea, it has been announced by the president of European Commission. ठीक है, तो जब आपके रशियन ड्रोन्स दे ब्रीच द पोलिश एयर स्पेस, तो उन्होंने कहा कि देर इज़ अ नीड टू स्ट्रेंथन दिस, जो आपका यूरोपियन यूनियन का ईस्टर्न फ्लैंक है उसको हमें सेफ गार्ड करने की ज़रूरत है, तो स्ट्रेंथन द एयर डिफेंसेस अलोंग योर ईस्टर्न फ्लैंक. ठीक है, सो आपने देखा होगा रशिया नाउ एट प्रेजेंट गिवन द टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट, तो आपने देखा होगा जितने भी ग्लोबल लेवल पर दीज काइंड ऑफ कन्फ्लिक्ट्स आर टेकिंग प्लेस, तो ड्रोन्स का बहुत यूज़ किया जा रहा है, राइट. सो एंड रशिया एट प्रेजेंट इट इज़ वेजिंग अ हाइब्रिड वॉर. ठीक है, these are the comments of your Danish prime minister that Russia is waging a hybrid war against Europe. So there is a need to consider this particular conflict not as a Ukraine सिर्फ this issue is just not restricted to Ukraine. ठीक है, it is a European issue, so there is a need to look from that angle. So what is this drone wall now? So drone wall basically is a concept which involves एंटी ड्रोन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. ठीक है, रादर देन योर फिजिकल बैरियर्स. तो यहाँ पर आपका कोई फिजिकल बैरियर नहीं होगा, सो देर विल बी एंटी ड्रोन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर. सो व्हाट विल इट इंक्लूड? सो देर वुड बी इन्हांस्ड रडार, कास्टिक सेंसर्स. ठीक है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक वॉरफेयर जहाँ पर आपका जैमर्स होंगे. ठीक है, आपके एंटी एयरक्राफ्ट गन्स, इंटरसेप्टर्स, ऑल्सो द आर्टिफिशियल इंटीग्रेशन विल बी इन्वॉल्व. ठीक है, सो बेसिकली एम क्या है कि यू नीड टू डिटेक्ट, track, intercept drones which are entering European Union or their allied nations. ठीक है, so what are the considerations here? So you must have read in the news about swarm threats. ठीक है, so because of this the detection of the drones it becomes very difficult. So that to deal with such challenges, so this kind of drone wall is required. ठीक है, so here important considerations are that European Union has almost 20 to 50 kilometer of border with Russia. Then Norway, it has almost 200-kilometer border with Russia. It is a non-EU member. Then Belarus, which is a ally of Russia, it has 1200-kilometer border with Russia. तो ये सब challenge है. ठीक है, then there is another challenge which is the funding, because this cost of deploying and maintaining these sensors, jammers, kinetic systems, it will be very high, right. Then complexity of operating these mechanisms, बिकॉज ये डिफरेंट नेशंस में आपके सारी इस्टेब्लिश किए जाएंगे, तो ऐसे में कोऑर्डिनेट करना, हैविंग पॉलिटिकल कंसेंसस, सो ऑल दीज आर गोइंग टू बी हर्डल्स. ठीक है. तो ऑब्वियसली द बॉटम लाइन इज दैट इट इज़ एन एम्बिशियस, इट इज़ हाई टेक डिफेंस इनिशिएटिव. ठीक है. सो द पॉलिटिकल विल, टेक्निकल फिजिबिलिटी, फंडिंग, क्रॉस बॉर्डर कोऑर्डिनेशन, ऑल दीज आर गोइंग टू बी द चैलेंजेस, हर्डल्स. ठीक है. सो दिस कंसेप्ट इज स्टिल एट अ कंसेप्चुअल स्टेज. अभी इस पे ज़्यादा डेवलपमेंट नहीं है बिकॉज देर इज रिलक्टेंस फ्रॉम फ्रांस एज वेल एज जर्मनी गिवन द मेजर हर्डल्स एसोसिएटेड विद इट. बट स्टिल यू शुड नो कि ये कंसेप्ट क्या है, राइट. Next, so now there are two practice questions. So the first is related to crowd disaster management. So here the first question is, how is India addressing crowd disasters and what measures have been institutionalized at national and state levels to manage mass gatherings effectively? So basically, if you have been following the news, so there was a fatal crowd crash at one of the political rallies in Tamil Nadu recently, and because of which almost 40 people died, right. So earlier also we have seen how these kind of crowds, they are leading to deaths of the people. So this context, the initial context you can mention in the introduction. Then in terms of the national level measures, you have to mention about the BPRD guidelines. Okay, BPRD guidelines of 2025, then NDMA guidelines of 2020 that you can mention. Then you can mention about NIDM training. Okay, also you can mention about the Indian Railways. Okay, that how after the stampede of February 2025 manuals have been released by the Indian Railways. ठीक है, तो वो आप मेंशन कर सकते हो. दीज आर सम ऑफ द नेशनल लेवल मेजर्स. इफ आई टॉक अबाउट स्टेट लेवल मेजर्स, सो यू कैन मेंशन अबाउट कर्नाटका's crowd control bill of 2025. Uttar Pradesh in 2023 it has released certain guidelines for religious as well as cultural events. Gujarat and Uttarakhand, they are providing technical training. ठीक है. Maharashtra also is having one bill which enables temporary facilities and exemptions from planning norms for large gatherings. ठीक है. Also certain states have put in place local SOPs, तो वो आप मेंशन कर सकते हो. Finally, you can mention that what further measures can be undertaken, that how technology can be employed, how safe crowd density can be ensured, right. तो वो चीज़ें आप ensure mention कर सकते हो in the way forward, right. If you know of some international mechanisms, you can add that also, right. So this is the first question. And second, why is environmental surveillance important in public health, and how is India leveraging it for disaster monitoring? So basically, what is, first of all, you should know this concept. So this concept is very much in the news now. So this particular concept involves tracking pathogens. ठीक है, चाहे आपका वेस्ट वाटर हो, सोयल हो, पब्लिक स्पेसिस हो, तो उनको आप ट्रैक कर रहे हो टू मोनिटर द स्प्रेड ऑफ डिजीज. तो अल्टीमेटली पैथोजन से डिजीज स्प्रेड होता है, तो हम उनको ही ट्रैक कर रहे हैं. तो अनलाइक क्लिनिकल डिटेक्शन किस चीज़ पे डिपेंड करता है कि सिम्टम्स आ रहे हैं, इंडिविजुअल्स को सिम्टम्स आ रहे हैं, वो टेस्ट करवा रहे हैं अपना, उसके बाद सिम्टम आ रहे हैं, तो वो चीज़ पे डिपेंड करता है. तो एनवायरमेंटल सर्विलेंस अर्ली वार्निंग पे डिपेंड करता है. सो वी विल बी प्रोवाइडिंग अर्ली वार्निंग सिग्नल्स. सो ऐसे में क्या होगा, सो द पब्लिक हेल्थ अथॉरिटीज़, they will be able to anticipate the outbreaks and they can then prepare suitable interventions. तो इंडिया में स्पेशली आफ्टर कोविड दिस अप्रोच इज बीइंग फॉलोड. तो यहाँ पर क्या मैकेनिज्म्स होते हैं, सो यू कैन मेंशन व्हाट आर द मैकेनिज्म, सैम्पलिंग सोर्सेज, देन डिटेक्शन वाया योर होल जीनोम सीक्वेंसिंग, एंड फाइनली द इनसाइट. तो देखने के लिए कि इन्फेक्शन कितना प्रेवलेंट है, ठीक है, कि हमारे क्या क्या कंट्रोल मैकेनिज्म्स अवेलेबल हैं, उनको किस तरीके से ट्वीक करना है. सो दैट you can mention these are the mechanisms of environmental surveillance. Importance I have already told you. And what initiatives have been undertaken by India, so one is the ICMR programs. तो ICMR waste water surveillance के लिए program चला रहा है. Then there is avian influenza surveillance program. ठीक है. So these are some of the examples that you can mention. So there is a basically in the conclusion you can mention that there is a need to develop a national surveillance system which will include proper standardized protocols as well as data sharing framework. तो इस तरीके का futuristic note में आप conclude कर सकते हैं. So this is what I wanted to discuss regarding your week 1 current affairs. In the subsequent videos we will be taking week 2 onwards. Thank you.